Welcome to episode 165 of the Grip Strip podcast, the Kyle's Wild edition of the Grip Strip podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co host, a computer genius, a gentleman, a scholar, iRacing, and an iRacing Indy 500 champion. His name is Josh Shafine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil, as always. Had a good weekend, of course, and everything. Besides the regular racing that we see, this weekend, I did a little bit of racing of my own, go-karting. So we'll get into that later. But yeah, a lot of good racing this weekend, of course, Long Beach and Martinsville, and yeah, both series. We saw Kyle win in Cup and in IndyCar. So yeah, ready to get into it.
Yeah, Kyle Kirkwood goes and wins from pole to get his first career IndyCar win. Brian Herta takes yet another young driver to victory lane. First of what probably will be many victories for Kyle Kirkwood in the IndyCar series. At Long Beach, had to battle Joseph Newgarden, amongst others, to get that victory. In terms of the Cup Series, it was processional, very strategy based race. Some of the drivers said it was even worse than last year at Martinsville, and that's with less horsepower or more horsepower and less downforce. And the what do you call the product showed it when Kyle Larson stayed out on old tires and Joey Logano stayed out on nearly 200 lap older tires and they finished first and second. So Larson finally gets his grandfather clock for his fan base. I was going to say something else, but it just doesn't matter. Uh, Other than that, we'll get into the Xfinity and truck races. John Hunter Nemechek and Corey Heim, victors in both of those series. We will then also go into our GSP roundup, which will cover the Supercross at Atlanta Motor Speedway, IMSA at Long Beach, MotoGP and Moto2 at Circuit of the Americas, which was the MotoGP races was absolute carnage. WEC at Portimao, which the winner is usual, the same usual winner. But there are some other people, interesting teams out there. Las Vegas four wide NHRA Nationals. We'll talk about the pro categories, but in the sportsman category, one Anthony Wayne Stewart took his first career top alcohol dragster win at the same track that he almost got his first win last fall. Gets that deal done. So we'll talk about that. Preview Rally Croatia, the Berlin Prix, they return after a bunch of time off. And then World Superbike at Assen, one of the great motorcycle circuits there is. And then Josh and I will preview Talladega, the Xfinity and the Cup. We'll make our picks, and the Tate Fogelman algorithm will come out of hibernation. It's been on ice since Atlanta, so we'll bring it back out for this race and see what it spits out. There's some interesting drivers in the Cup race. There's going to be a little bit of bumping there, so something to look at. I think, or maybe the number is off, and I there's not even 40, and then it won't matter. But we'll get into Josh's sim segment and also his go karting exploits on gas go kart exploits out there. So we'll talk about that and then we'll close the deal. So, yeah, let's start with the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, one of the majors, a race that everyone in IndyCar wants to win. That's and to go out there and get the victory and do it in the way that Kyle Kirkwood did was pretty strong. Great job by him. Great job by the Andretti Autosport crew this past weekend, finishing 1, 2, and 4 uh, for the three actual drivers they have on that team. And he led, I don't know how many, we'll see that. Yeah. He led 53. Kirkwood led 53 of the race's 85 laps. Joseph Newgarden was the other driver that um, led a bunch of the race, and Newgarden ended up, because of having to do an extreme fuel save, fell back and fell back to ninth. We'll get into the top 10 here. I was off on the speed there for the fastest lap. That's pretty far off for me. Kyle Kirkwood, Roman Grosjean, and Marcus Ericsson are your top three finishers, and they started in the top three. Grosjean was less than a second behind. Colton Herta finished fourth. Alex Palou finished fifth. Will Power sixth. Felix Rosenquist, Marcus Armstrong, Joseph Newgarden, and Scott McLaughlin round out the top 10. Root Beer Floathead and Green Rehal 11th, 12th. The three Rahal cars finished 12th, 13th, and 14th after they started in the boondocks. Pato O'Ward fucked it hard and went from having the points lead and being able to solidify said points lead to losing it with running into Scott Dixon and then later on screwing up on his own. So unfortunate performance for Pato. The McLaren team didn't have a lot to show for it. Rosenquist finished seventh. That was the best finisher because Alexander Rossi went off course on the final lap or final couple of laps of the race and lost what would have been a top 10 finish for sure. And Dixon, of course, finished dead last, which is weird for Scott Dixon to finish dead last in a race. I'd have to look it up the last time he actually done that. But probably, I think it was one of the Indy 500s recently when he crashed. I think the one where he almost got launched in outer space. I think that one was the one he might have finished dead last in that race. But Kyle Kirkwood, what a performance. They ran the vast majority from lap 24 to 85. The rest of the race was run under green. The majority of the drivers here from first to 18th all did two stops. I think the only people that did more than two stops were drivers that actually had problems. And so credit to, I mean, it was not just strategy, but you had to go and time it right to make sure you were saving fuel and the like. But Kyle Kirkwood handled himself like a veteran and did what he had to do to get his first career victory, Josh. And battling his teammate in the end, 3 Andretti cars in the top 4, something that we used to see back in the day, but not something we have seen in a few years for sure, probably in like a decade with Andretti being up there. But credit to them, they had the pace at St. Petersburg to win. Both Grosjean and Kirkwood. This time they're able to finish the job, and Colton Herta was able to move up and get into a position possibly to get another victory at Long Beach. But in this case, he takes a 4th place finish. So, but Kyle Kirkwood is the story. Gets his first career win in IndyCars, Josh.
Yeah, Kyle Kirkwood, of course, first career win, won the pole too this weekend. So he was really dominant throughout the entire, race throughout the weekend. Romain Grosjean was right there with him and gave his teammate Daps on Friday when he qualified on pole. So really impressive run overall. And Kyle Kirkwood, we kind of saw, like I said, at St. Petersburg what he could do. Got caught up in an accident there, of course, but over here at Long Beach, he was in command for most of the day, and you know, at times, he fell behind Joseph Newgarden, but he was the only one really that could hang with Newgarden. Of course, Newgarden's on a different strategy, but he stayed within 1 second or less for the most part with Newgarden throughout the middle portion of the race when Joe New was leading there. So a really strong car, and then when it counted at the end, he was able to drive away from everybody. Of course, Grosjean at the end put on a little bit of a challenge and maybe closed within a little bit less than a second, but never could get any further than that. So really, a really strong effort there from Andretti for both of their cars. or well, two of their cars with Grosjean and Kirkwood there. So, yeah, just an impressive performance, I think, overall. And like you said, for Andretti, they been really good so far to start the year, even though first race maybe they had a little bit of bad luck with some of their cars. So yeah, just a really impressive performance. Got to say, it does speak to the uh, investment that not only Andretti has made, but CEO of Group 1001 and Gainbridge has also put a lot of money into this team. Of course, becoming virtually a co-owner of the team and everything. So that certainly helps to have more capital, of course. And of course, Pato O'Ward has talked about in the past the main competition being Penske and Ganassi that he has to face. Well, I think Andretti has a little bit to say about that for sure. Of course, um, Pato finished in 17th and had a couple of run-ins throughout the day, including, hip checking Scott Dixon into the wall. So, little bit, uncharacteristic there of Scott Dixon to be taken out and finish last, and maybe expect a little bit more out of Pato too there. So yeah, definitely a lot that happened throughout this race, even though Kirkwood definitely dominated most of the race. So yeah, of course, really impressive runs throughout uh, throughout the field. Kirkwood, of course. Felix Rosenquist, of course, had a good run. Marcus Armstrong finished in the top 10. Santino Ferrucci, finished in 11th place. So that for that team, pretty good run on the road course in a AJ Foyt car. Um, Augustin Canapino was there for a little bit, even though he finished towards the back of the field. He was up front for maybe a couple laps during a caution period. So um, at
Got
least,
taken out by Pato in that
yeah,
Dixon deal too, or
yeah, yeah, he did. So that's part of it. But he had chances there as well. So credit to him. Of course, Elio Castroneves finished a lap down, but impressive by work by the crew. First lap caution, um, first two laps they had caution, and he was able to get the nose repaired without losing a lap under caution. So credit to their crew for doing a really good job there. But yeah, this was a maybe interesting race overall, and some of the strategies that we saw from Andretti versus Penske there, and was wondering there, with Newgarden taking the lead in the middle of the race, would he be able to um, you know keep the lead overall? But Kirkwood was able to get it back, and he was able to hold the point from there on for the rest of the race. So yeah, it was a solid Grand Prix. Nothing too crazy happened, but nonetheless, it is Long Beach, and one of the most impressive performances we've seen, and one of the most prestigious road course races in the country in this series.
yeah, it's a classic. I mean, outside of the Indianapolis 500, that's the biggest race on the IndyCar calendar. You want to win this race. It means a lot. A lot of the great drivers have won it. Michael Andretti won his first and last race of his career at Long Beach, separated by what is 16 years between that first and last victory of his career, and meant a lot to his career. He became one of his strong points of his legendary career was street courses, and he won at Long Beach, which his dad had dominated at before in multiple types of cars. And then some guy named Al Unser Jr. became the king of Long Beach and won how many races, although back in the 80s and the 90s, if it wasn't for Danny Sullivan dumping him, he would have probably won like 7, 8 in a row or 7 in a row or something. So to win at Long Beach has meaning a lot of drivers have won their first career race there. As I mentioned, Michael Andretti, that orange no necklace mongoloid Paul Tracy, um, what is it? I think Mike Conway, they said as well, and Takuma Sato. were all first-time winners at winning the Long Beach Grand Prix prior to Kyle Kirkwood. And of course, Takuma Sato's a two-time Indianapolis 500 winner. Mike Conway won other IndyCar races and then has went on to have a strong career in the WEC. And so those are two really good ones to join along with Michael Andretti. And he was as happy as I've seen him in a long time. And I think it's probably because he knows that he has a guy that he can win with, he can build with. I mean, he's going to build with Colton Herta, of course, but there's just something about uh, this Kyle Kirkwood and what he has done in his career so far in all the lower formulas to be able to drive the way that he has driven and perform. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that and how good he has been. And there the reality of the world is I don't think this is the end. It's just the beginning for him. So that's credit to him and really something that I'm looking forward to seeing as the year goes on with the Indy cars and going to now at Baba will be the next race here in a couple of weeks' time. Now there will actually be some semblance of flow to the IndyCar schedule here, and it'll be nice to have that. That'll be in 2 weeks' time at Barber Motorsports Park. The point standings leading into the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix, I think presented by Am First. Trying to look at the logo, it's small enough. And yeah, Medical Properties Trust, Am First. Yeah, there you go. So the points going into Barber in 2 weeks' time, Marcus Ericsson retakes the points lead from Pato O'Ward. He is now 15 points ahead. He's a win, a third, and an eighth versus Pato's 2 seconds and a 17th. Alex Palou is in third, 4 points behind his likely future teammate. Joseph Newgarden in fourth. Kyle Kirkwood moves all the way up to fifth in terms of his 36 points behind Marcus Ericsson. Scott Dixon loses ground and now is sixth. But Scott Dixon over the years has had slow starts. He's had some issues early, and he's a 6-time champion. You never count him out. Grosjean is in seventh. Herta is in eighth. Will Power ninth. Scott McLaughlin 10th. I mean, basically from those drivers from sixth on back or fifth on back are only separated by 6 points. And if you go and stretch it to Malukas and Callum Ilott, who are 11th and 12th, they're only separated by 11 points. So that's a large cluster there. O'Ward, Palou, and Newgarden are all kind of clustered 6 points between those three. So something to look at as we move forward. Alexander Rossi kind of buried at the moment, amongst others that I'm looking at other full-time guys. I mean, the worst full-time guys that are not rookies, well, other than Devlin DeFrancesco, which is self-explanatory, or not rookie, is Simon Pagino, the Connor Daly, and Rinus VK. They're all tied with the same amount of points, which is pretty god-awful. Root Beer Floathead, then Alio, and Jack Harvey, which, I mean, last year Jack Harvey was absolute dog shit, so it doesn't surprise me. And Alio's proving once again that he's just basically an oval specialist at this point. He can run road courses in a sports car, but he's not really good at running road courses in an Indy car anymore. And they're probably going to call Tom Blomqvist in to replace him for next year, and it looks like it. He's looking like somebody that needs to be replaced. So, no offense to all the Elio Castro Neves fans. He can come back to Indy as many times as he wants. He's a god there. Fine. But he sucks on the majority of tracks that they race on. Yeah, we'll go and move to the Cup Series at Martinsville, the first of 3 races they had there during the weekend. Kyle Larson comes through late in the race after, kind of just hanging around. I mean, that's what Denny even said. He said it on his show. Uh, Larson really wasn't like the biggest factor in the race. He was on the back end of the top 10 for a good amount of the race. Got a couple of stage points, started 19th, but led the last 30 laps of the race to get his first career Martinsville win, 21st career victory. What is it? That's his 11th victory or 12th victory for Hendrick Motorsports since he joined them a couple of years ago. Or no, that's got to be more than that because he won 2 races last year, right? So 10, yeah, so 14. So he had 7 victories before he showed
Oh,
up
wait, he 3
to.
races last year.
All right,
Watkins
6
Glen
victories.
Watkins Glen, Homestead, and what's the other one? Oh, California. Yeah.
So, all right. So, thank you, man. So that means he had 6 wins before he joined Hendrick Motorsports, and he's won 15 races since then. In the last two years, and now change in terms of this season where he already has 2 wins. So, it took him forever to win a racing cup, and then he started winning them, and he had that one good year with Ganassi. And ever since he joined Hendrick, looks like a different guy. Larson led the last 30 laps, as I said, to get that win. 400 laps instead of 500, as it'll be in the fall for the cutoff to get to the final 4. Joey Logano was second after being absolutely nowhere most of the day. Led 25 laps at one point, was about to get lapped. Martin Truex went all over the place, ended up finishing third. Denny Hamlin talked about how he was going to start his major run, and he had a car that could have done it. He decent stage points, led 36 laps. Strategy call kind of cost him, he said on his own show. Chase Briscoe started 4th, finished 5th, got good stage points, and led twice for 109 laps, second highest number of laps led behind his teammate, the pole sitter Ryan Prix. Eric Almirola had one of the fastest race cars in the whole entire facility and was able to get a 6th out of it. He had a speeding penalty, I believe. That was a major issue yesterday. Blaney from 31st to 7th, so credit to him. That's probably, of course, Strat, but to come from that far back, you have to have a little bit of ability to pass some people. Richard in 8th, which has got to be one of his best finishes he's ever had at Martinsville because he's god awful there. Darrell Walsh Jr. 9th after starting 9th, and William Clyde Elliott II from 24th finished 10th. Alex Bowman was just outside the top 10 there. Chastain led 31 laps
From the back.
from the back after he was about to get lapped by Prix. He ended up saving that, and then I think Logano got the lucky dog actually that on that first caution or whatever, or at the stage break. Prix led the first 135 laps of the race, and it looked like he was in a different planet, on a different planet, and then he sped on pit road and basically spent the rest of the day trying to get himself back up, and he got 15th out of it, but I think even he would say that he probably should have had a lot more come from this race, kind of mirroring the performance he had at the Coliseum with running as fast as he did, same as Martin Truex, who had won at the Coliseum. Suarez started second, got roughed up a little bit, got some stage points, led some laps. Harvick won the second stage and then had issues. I think he had a speeding penalty or something, some sort of penalty. He cut a tire down kind of went to hell for him, and he went from likely top 5 to 20th. Kyle Busch was getting into argy bargy with Corey LaJoy amongst others. It was a pretty bad day for the RCR. Anybody who has RCR connections uh, yesterday, it was pretty god awful. I mean, Dylan actually finished 12th, but he wasn't really that good. That's all strategy. They were garbage. Tyler Reddick had good had a really good race car, and he got buried. Byron was considered a favorite by a lot of people, but it didn't happen during the race. Brad Keselowski led laps and got screwed by the timing of a yellow. Todd Gilliland was running up front for a good amount of the race, and then by the end of it, lost a lap there. So, uh, I mean, Kyle Larson gets the win. He really wasn't the story, but he gets second win of the year, solidifies his playoff positioning. Some of these other guys were in no man's land and got something out of it. I mean, when you look at, I think the drivers from third through sixth, those are all drivers that kind of had something to do with the race. I mean, Truex didn't lead any laps and he didn't get stage points, Josh, but he had a fast race car. But when you look at this, the guys who finished fourth, fifth, and sixth, those are three of the best cars yesterday. And got to say, because of strategy and the inability to pass, probably three of the best race cars ended up finishing behind uh, cars that, in Joey Logano's case, had nearly 200 lap old tires, and didn't have any problem. They said that they were making aero adjustments and downforce adjustments, horsepower, all that. And the race yesterday might have been worse than the race that they had in November or whatever, October, which determined the final four. Mainly because I think there's way more aggression necessary to go and do what they had to do. I mean, what is it? Briscoe was leading the race and he got moved by Christopher Bell. Was clean enough and clean pass, and he got moved. It was for a playoff spot, final four spot, and Christopher Bell won that race to get himself into the final four. And so I don't know what you were thinking, Josh, but I mean, Larson's whatever to me, but that racing was not all that compelling. Uh, if Ryan Preece had not made a mistake on that first pit stop, I think we'd be talking about him winning his first race, because I would believe he would have been the first guy, possibly since Jeff Bodine back in North Wilkesboro in 1994, or actually, wait, Jeff Burton at New Hampshire, when they decided to put restrictor plates after all the throttle. Two cars had the late Adam Petty passed away, and also Kenny Irwin passed away in New Hampshire because of stuck throttles. So in NASCAR's infinite wisdom, let's put restrictor plates on the cars at a track where you need all the horsepower you can get off the corners. And Jeff Burton qualified second, took the lead on the first lap, and led every lap. But I think Ryan Preece could have done that yesterday if he had messed up. So, what were your thoughts on the Cup Series race at Martinsville, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you there with Ryan Preece potentially leading all of or most of the laps. But yeah, speeding penalty took him out, and besides the fact that it took him out of contention at that point in the race, after 135 laps, what really was surprising was and showed kind of what the lack of progress is with the current configuration of downforce here, is that he wasn't really able to make any passes to get back to the front. He stayed mired in 20th. Was close to falling a lap behind. About the same time, Bubba Wallace fell a lap down to Denny Hamlin in the middle of stage two. But he fought back to like around 15th, but really nothing more than that. And that's where he ended up staying. So kind of a disappointing ending there for Priest, and shows like just how difficult it is to pass with this car. On the other hand, Bubba Wallace also kind of had the same situation on the same pit stop. So did Truex. They both had speeding penalties, but they ended up recovering to finish back in the top 10. But they had to use strategy to get back up there. He Wallace and Martin Truex. Maybe Wallace fell a lap down and everything got lucky dog, but the or well was part of that. But he used pit strategy to get back up there, and he's able to get back into at least the top 10 and recover. So both those cars had good pace, so at least they were able to get something out of it. But then Chase Briscoe got into the lead, stayed there for over 100 laps, get a top 5 finish. Denny Hamlin led laps and was up there, but then it just seemed like, tires mattered enough to where, if you were on older tires coming off of a restart, you'd get past, but it didn't matter enough to, where, maybe you're the best car like Ryan Preece, or seemingly the best car, because, honestly, whoever won the pole could have been anybody, right? Um, there. So somebody winning the pole lead the first 135 laps and gets taken out by something and can't make his way back up. So there's still a little bit of ways to go in terms of tire where we're able to do that. And Denny Hamlin talked about on his podcast the um, horsepower and stuff, that they still need more horsepower and everything, which I agree with. And it seems like for every 50 horsepower they take away, it basically leads to about uh, 2 seconds difference in fall off per horsepower or something like that, or 50 horsepower. So as they taking away downforce or taking away power, it seems like the amount of fall off on lap times uh gets faster, so or increases. So there isn't really a ton of fall off. And it seemed like in this race, Larson obviously he didn't start up front on the last restart, right? He was in fourth place, so he still had to make a couple of passes, but he was able to get up there in relatively quick time and drive away. So tires mattered to a degree, but not enough to what I think people want for a short track race, and for it to to really truly matter. So there is some improvements, but still not enough. And that was kind of what people I think were looking out for, especially with uh how it looked in Phoenix with this package and everything. So clearly, still a lot of work to do. And of course, even Clint Boyer, who's basically been a yes man on the broadcast, went on Twitter today and said that the package sucks, and that they need to improve it, but confident that they'll figure out a solution. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean that's the race. What we saw on Sunday. I mean, um, there was some passing through the field, but not really. And up front where it mattered the most, not too much that happened, and most of it happened off of pit road, and whoever was able to get the lead coming out of the pits on a caution or on a restart. So yeah, I mean not really too much to take away here from the Cup Series race at Martinsville. Of course, Chase Elliott came back from his accident in the snowboarding, back in March. Now back in the race car, finished top 10 here. So solid uh, start, after injury and everything. And at least, with the injury and everything, looks like he can at least, perform okay enough to be able to, hang in there with the rest of the guys. So, yeah, uh, it is what it is right now in Martinsville. And guess we move on to Talladega, and all the mile and a halves that we have coming up here on the rest of the schedule.
Yeah, and I mean, you also have to consider Chase Briscoe, who had injured left middle finger on the lower part. He injured it in the late model, and he joked around that basically their season turned around after he goes and has that injury. You could see in his Instagram post with his son Brooks going and playing around on the car and making sure all the parts are good for dad. That Chase had Briscoe had a different type of glove to go and compensate for I guess the splint or whatever they had on that finger, and for him to get through 500 laps at Martinsville and run top 5 for a vast majority of the race. So credit to him. 2 consecutive top 5 finishes for Chase Briscoe and that 14 team. One of the best results and performances by the Stewart-Haas Racing team and for a while, and a lot to be said about that. With considering how bad they have been, they've been getting outrun by the likes of Front Row Motorsports and Roush Fenway now too. I mean, it's pretty weak. So in terms of the driver points leading into Talladega, Christopher Bell leads the overall point standings with 302. He leads Ross Chastain by 5. Kevin Harvick is 3rd, and then Kyle Larson is 4th. Of course, Kyle Larson has 2 wins, same as William Byron. So they, at the moment, theoretically lead the playoff standings. And then you go through the rest of the drivers. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different drivers have won so far in 9 races. Then you have Chastain, who's the defending race winner at Talladega. Harvick, Truex, Denny Hamlin, or Truex rounds out the top 10, and Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Brad Keselowski, Chase Briscoe, and Christopher Buescher round out the 16. And so that's the points at the moment. You got to take that, for what it is, because there's and you have to. I think the playoff points is one thing you have to look at. And William Byron now is behind Kyle Larson in playoff points by 2. And then there's a close battle after that for the rest of those placings. William Clyde Elliott, the second, is 31st in points at the moment. Of course, they don't have that whole top 30 thing anymore, so it doesn't really matter. He's 22 points behind Noah Gragson for 30th. Yeah, so that's something to look at. Of course, I think he's looking to try to win at Talladega and get himself locked in. Trying to look through here. Yeah, the Buescher is 16th, and he's up by 6 points on both Daniel Suarez and Michael McDowell, and 9 points on Austin Cindric, and then 13 points on Keebler Gibbs, who is 20th. Austin Dillon is in 21st, Bubba Wallace in 22nd. Some of the other ones, Almirola actually moved up 3 spots in points. Ryan Preece is there behind him. But what it shows is that Briscoe has had a couple of good runs in a row, and all of a sudden he's gotten some solid stage points, and he's went from being basically with his teammates Almirola and Preece into the back end of the playoffs. So shows what stage points can do, and actually performing halfway decently as well. The Xfinity Series race kind of had a similar feel at Martinsville. They really weren't. There wasn't a whole lot going on in that deal. Call 811.com 250 was pretty much a bore fest, and John Hunter Nemechek won both stages, led 198 of the race's 250 laps. Only one other driver led double-digit laps, and that was Josh Berry, who had issues at times but came back. John Hunter Nemechek wins. His teammate, Sammy Smith, finishes second. Cole Custer third after starting on pole. Barry fourth. Bruckshot Jones fifth. Justin Allgaier sixth. Daniel Hemrick. Derek Kraus seventh and eighth. Brett Moffitt ninth, and Chandler Smith in 10th. So all three Kaulig cars in the top 10, and 3 of the 4 JRM cars there, along with 2 Gibbs cars, and then 2 Stewart-Haas Fords. The Moffitt car is a Stewart-Haas prepared machine, along with the regular Stewart-Haas car of Cole Custer. Basically, you see all that right there. That's where all the racing was. I mean, Mayer and Riley Herbst got into it. They're late. What is it? 98, 119. Or no, that was because of Ryan Truex running over Sam Mayer, and that took out what do you call Riley Herbst, and also involved Jeb Burton, but he was able to keep going and end up finishing 14th, actually. Truex was 12th, right behind Parker Retzlaff, who started 4th, finished 11th. I ended up picking, for once, I actually picked a winner in John Hunter. I didn't think it was going to be that epic, but he did it. And then he burned his car down, like Zane Smith. I think somebody has to get to these people and say, when they run those mud flaps or whatever that they run on the car, maybe you shouldn't go and do burnouts. Basically sit on the wall and do those those massive NHRA burnouts, because you're going to burn the car down or truck down. Just a thought. But go through some of these other people. So yeah, those guys. Trying to see anybody else of any great significance. Austin Hill actually led 8 laps at one point during the night. Herbst had some good stage points, and Sam Mayer scored stage points in the first stage. Pretty straightforward, and it was a pretty short race. I mean, even with 10 cautions, you look at, and also like for Brett Moffitt to come back from spinning early in the race to get back in the top 10. Caden Honeycutt, who had starred in the truck race at Bristol, blew an engine in the 74 car, which is not surprising because they're not used to actually running a race. Then you have, I'm trying to go look through here. Yeah, what is it? Joe Graff Jr. got completely used up by Ryan Ellis, and I think a lot of people were happy about that. Soon after that, there was a caution for 4 drivers that kind of don't really have anything to do with it. LeBay, the 07, which was driven by, trying to see who, Dawson Cram, former guest of the show, Leland Honeyman, or whatever the hell his name is, and then the 28 of Kyle Sieg. So then another Sieg car got destroyed. Then the 92 of Josh Williams got spun. 51 of Jeremy Clements. Yeah, so Cole Custer led the first 5 laps, and Nemechek led for like nearly 60. Then Hill took over, and Barry, Smith. Outside of a pocket of 5 laps for Justin Allgaier, John Hunter led from lap 107 till the end. So it was a proper baptism. John Hunter Nemechek goes out there and gets that victory. I mean, I don't really know what to say. There really wasn't anything else that was going on. Barry had to come back from some turmoil at times during the race, which seems to be the thing every single week, Josh, but he's still coming up with finishes. But John Hunter Nemechek kind of has a similar feeling to his truck season a couple of years ago, where he ended up winning a lot of races, having a lot of momentum, and then when push came to shove in the playoffs, he melted down and wasn't able to close the deal at Phoenix. But right now, he's looking pretty good, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking pretty good. Obviously, he's been fairly dominant to start the year. This one, yeah, no different, of course. And I think the fire celebration, like you said, is very metaphorical for how he's performed so far this season. Of course, 2 wins, 4 top 5s, and 7 top 10 finishes to start off the year after only 8 races and rightfully leading the points lead so far to start the year. So, yeah, he's literally on fire this year and can't blame him. And, think Joe Gibbs Racing, their organization, um, s- same performance as they've been performing since last year, and they continue with John Hunter, and of course, looks like his 2021 form with or Kyle Busch Motorsports. And showing that he's eventually going to get a cup ride. Is probably deserving of one, but we'll have to see later on in a few years if he's able to to get one. And of course, teammate Sammy Smith finishing seventh or second. So Toyota Joe Gibbs won too, and he led a couple laps there as well. So they performed admirably, of course. And then you have Josh Berry, like we were talking about. The only one really to lead any significant amount of laps other than John Hunter there. So he was able to really get in a top 5 finish. Yeah, this I mean, yeah, like I agree with what you said. Not too much happened really in this race. And it's just all John Hunter Nemechek, of course. Sam Ayer got in an accident, of course. Towards the end. So he's only and him and Riley Herbst both got into it along with the 19 and the 27. So two top names, or at least regularly performing names in this series, taken out late in the running. You had that happen. Of course, Sheldon Creed had some beef with the Colleague cars. Of course, Colleague Racing, one of the vendors or customers of RCR that they get equipment and support from. And Sheldon Creed had some beef, of course, talking about how it seems like the Colleague guys are the ones that don't have a whole lot of respect for them and their own customers. So gotta wonder where the love is on that. But seems like it's encouraged by Matt Colleague and Chris Rice for their drivers to be uber aggressive in this series. So um maybe Sheldon Creed shouldn't be surprised by that when you look at it from how the owners want it and the managers over there want it, but still like to see more respect from the guys that get, or to the guys that you get your equipment from. But yeah, not too much happened in this race, and certainly John Hunter. I mean, could be a sign of things to come for at least the rest of the regular season. Uh, here in the Xfinity series, will and until the playoffs, we'll see if John Hunter Nemechek's able to run away with the Xfinity title, similar how he took the regular season title a few years ago in the Truck Series.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, plenty of time to go. Talladega coming up, which means Austin Hill's gonna probably star there. He's made his bones at the plate type tracks, so great opportunity for him there. He started out smoking. 3 wins in the first 5 races. It's been a little bit rough since then. The last three: Austin, Texas, of course, COTA and Richmond, and now Martinsville. Going to Talladega, then they'll run Dover. They'll take a week off in between that, and then they'll go to Darlington, another week off, Charlotte. And then from Charlotte on, they're going to be, I don't know, I was wrong. I was about to say from Charlotte on, but they have another week off in between Snoroma, which will be the first time they run there, and then Nashville, which will be the first race for the NBC crew. And then from then on, they're going to be running for a while there until Texas. They're going to run every week until Texas, which is pretty bad. We're pretty rough for what little money they make. Um, Points right now, John Hunter Nemechek leads the Xfinity point standings by 21 over Austin Hill, the two dominant figures so far in the Xfinity series. Playoff points, Austin Hill has 18 to John Hunter's 13, but I figure that's going to keep on going up. Chandler Smith is third in points. Riley Herbst, even with the rough finish on Saturday, is fourth. Josh Berry rounds out the top five. 9 points separating Chandler Smith to Josh Berry. Allgaier, Sammy Smith, Cole Custer, Daniel Hemrick, and Sheldon Creed rounding out the top 10. Sam Mayer and Parker Kligerman rounding out the 12. There's nobody outside of the top 12 right now that has won a race. So, Parker Kligerman leads Buckshot Jones by 9 points. He leads Ryan Sieg by 14. And then it's a much bigger gap after that. Opportunity race, of course, coming up this weekend at Talladega. So for somebody who is outside of that top 12 right now, a smaller team trying to go and get in like Jeremy Clements did at Daytona last year. Jeffrey Earnhardt drove for Richard Childress and had Larry McReynolds on the pit box and almost won this race last year. There are other people there. I mean, we'll get into the preview for Talladega, but some people, even Kligerman, to be fair, because he's been pretty good over the years on super speedways. Truck Series race showed us something we had never seen before, which is racing on a oval in the wet, albeit I think it was more damp than wet. In the Long John Silver 200, this race was basically the same kind of deal as the Xfinity. Not a whole lot of movement. The top 7 drivers were basically the top 7 drivers most of the night, for the exception of Christian Eckes, who fell back late. And then you have Sawlich and Colby Howard who scored points. Corey Heim led 82 of the race's 124 laps because they shortened the race due to weather. Kyle Busch finished second. Zane Smith finished third after starting on pole. So Corey Heim and what do they call that stupid team? DGR, what used to be DGR Crosley or whatever, or David Gillen Racing, Tricon Garage, gets their first victory of the season. Kyle Busch close. I picked him. You picked Ross Chastain, and Ross Chastain definitely did not have anything this weekend. Coming back to the side of the Hail Melon, he definitely had nothing in whatever vehicle he was driving. But Corey Heim gets the victory. They go and use those damp weather tires to essentially dry the track. And then they ran them through the first stage. But really, there wasn't a whole lot that came out of it. They had a competition yellow. Then they had a stage 1 conclusion and a red flag for 24 minutes. Then they got the race back on and had a couple more spins, including Stu Ball, and then the 43 of Daniel Dye. And then the race ending caution was Carson Hocevar being Carson Hocevar, trying to clean out Taylor Gray and failing, and then got a 2-lap penalty in the process. So coming off of his first career victory a few weeks ago, which involved having an accident happen there, we see yet again another example of why people hate Carson Hocevar and the way he drives. But Corey Heim gets the victory, Josh, and it was him and Kyle Busch the whole night. There really wasn't anything else going on. Um, Heim, Busch, Zane Smith, Ty Majeski, Tanner Gray, the top five. So two of the Tricon Toyotas there. Ben Rhodes, Matt D. Burrito, Taylor Gray, William Sawalich. So what is it? All four of those team trucks finish in the top nine, and then Chase Purdy rounds out the top 10. Nick Sanchez just outside. Chastain ended up coming back and finishing 12th, but he really wasn't that good. So, I mean, that's really all there. I mean, Corey Heim dominated, won both stages, took advantage of the situation there, and he's given himself a good, solid place probably in the playoffs, because I don't see many. I don't see more than 10 winners in the truck series this year. There are some competitive drivers and some competitive teams, but I don't think there's going to be more than 10 winners. And Heim right now actually is fourth in points, only a point ahead of Eckes. But both of them are winners so far. They've won some stages. They have some decent playoff points. But yeah, Corey Heim, good job for what is now the factory Toyota team and their number one prospect in the truck series, more than likely getting that victory at Martinsville on damp weather tires.
Yeah, of course, and on damp weather tires, so it's pretty impressive. The first time we've ever seen in NASCAR, at least, wet weather racing on ovals, and I mean, honestly, it didn't really look all that different, which maybe that's a good thing, right? And of course, that when they were on the wet, I mean, I think it works best when the track is damp more so than wet. I mean, if you have a lot of really wet spots. Opportunities to hydroplane. That's not really good. I mean, we still see that on the road courses at times when they have raced on wet tires, where you have puddles and stuff, throughout the track. So of course, a lot of debate, among fans, and drivers, people in the industry on how, where, if they really got what they invested in with these wet weather tires, and they didn't use them enough when it was actually wet. But then on the other hand, they stopped the race, uh, you know, on a good note, because it was maybe too wet for the wet weather tires. A lot of debate there, of course, and I mean, there's really only one way to find out. I mean, then again, if they had kept it, green, or kept going throughout the race, and um, have an accident because the car went through a puddle and hydroplaned into the wall, there's not really a lot of room to recover from that. Of course, road course, if you hydroplane or something, you have an opportunity to at least go into the gravel trap, or into the grass or something. So you don't really have that opportunity on an oval per se. So that's something to consider there. But good debut, I guess, for wet weather racing. And we'll have to see later on in the year if we get another short track event in any of the series, where we see the opportunity for potentially putting on the wet tires, and maybe we might see a different outcome. What if it rains at North Wilkesboro or something at the All Star race, or for the trucks in their race? Could we potentially see a wet weather event happen, and that might be interesting because that track has a lot of tire wear, of course. And how would a wet weather tire fare up against a track like that? And have they considered? I mean, obviously they've already done testing and stuff, but did they ever do any testing on a wet condition with a track like North Wilkesboro? Probably not. So I think we'll have to see how that plays out. But hopefully that event in general doesn't get rained out or get affected by rain, because there's obviously rain kind of puts a damper on things. Especially for a big event like that coming up next month. So we'll have to see. But yeah, Corey Heim, of course, putting him in good position for playoffs later in the year, and everything. So yeah, he's definitely you know good for that, of course, and showing what he can do in this series, and look to see him later on in the year, and if he's able to make any noise in the playoffs and go on a good run, potentially a championship type run, maybe he'd be a guy that could challenge Zane Smith, of course, and Kyle Busch finishing second. Obviously, he was frustrated after the race. You saw his comments about being able to race on the wet. He was obviously very critical, and probably because could have had a chance to take home the 100th victory for his organization. So probably wanted that milestone victory really bad, and everything. Of course, still the winningest driver in the Truck Series, so can wait for another day. So I'm sure somebody else can win it, or next time he's in the truck, he can win it and get that 100th victory there. But yeah, I mean, not too much outside of this wet weather experiment, which I think gave a chance for some novelty and everything. But at the end of the day, um, not what didn't really look any different from what we would normally see, results wise. So at least good job on uh, you know all the organization, all the drivers and everything for at least maintaining throughout the rain and everything. And we didn't see anything too crazy like ARCA breaks or anything like that, so that was good. But yeah, I mean, nothing really else to talk about from that race, of course.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. It was a snoozer, and when you add the fact that you have, I think Jamie Little was calling that race. It might be, I don't remember, but I wasn't watching much of it. But uh, yeah, Heim getting his third career Truck Series win, big deal for him. Kyle Busch has two more races to run this year in his truck. They'll be running in Kansas in 3 weeks' time, so they'll have some time off here before they get back into it. The points, Ty Majeski, 6 top 10s in 7 races, average finish of fifth. That's pretty sporty. Zane Smith, the defending series champion, 26 points behind, but has 2 wins. Ben Rhodes, third. Corey Heim, fourth. Christian Eckes, fifth, as I mentioned, only 1 point separating Heim and Eckes. Grant Enfinger, Matt Crafton, Tanner Gray, Matt DiBurrito, and Chase Purdy, who was tied with his pseudo teammate Nick Sanchez for the last playoff spot at the moment. So that's something to look at. I don't think that tie will last because Nick Sanchez is a way better driver and probably will win sooner rather than later. Jake Garcia, who missed Daytona, is eligible. I think they gave him a waiver if he can win. So he's 12th in points. The McAnally Hilgeman team doing really well. Hocevar is 13th, but he has a win, so he's basically in fourth amongst that. So right now, I guess that means fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. So Grant Enfinger actually, if we take into account all the drivers that have won, Enfinger is on the bump by 2 points on Matt Kraft and 10 on Tanner Gray. And then once you get past those guys, it gets a little tighter. So something to look into. The likes of Stuart Friesen, who's had some struggles this year, trying to go, and he needs to get a victory at some point. He's only 1 point behind Carson Osevar, which kind of speaks to how bad he's run most of the year, other than getting that victory at Texas. Got other people out there like Haley Deegan and Tyler Ankrum, uh, kind of in the weeds there. Colby Howard, Rajah Caruth, the rookie, Chris Wrong in 19th. Timmy Hill missed a race for whatever reason. It's illogical when you're actually competitive ish. You miss a race when you could possibly backdoor a playoff spot. I think the worst driver who has run every race is Dean Thompson. And we say that after Dean Thompson had probably the best race of his career at Texas and it went to hell in that ARCA break crash. Brett Holmes and Daniel Dye are the ones that are buried. Pretty good. 3 weeks' time, we'll talk about the trucks again. Stephen Malazzi is interesting. He finished dead last in the truck race, but he drove to Martinsville, jumped in that 22 truck and raced, albeit not that long, but he raced. Then jumped back in his car to get back to North Carolina to go to work as a server at a Italian restaurant or something. It was on his. I retweeted it because it was pretty cool to me that a guy who's trying to make, he has this dream to make it in racing, and he's grinding as a server, a waiter, to go in between while he's driving a truck in between that. So that's pretty cool. Nick Sanchez, they also announced earlier in the weekend that Nick Sanchez is going to run a throwback to Mario Andretti's Daytona 500 win for the Darlington throwback weekend, which is pretty badass, albeit, it's on a Chevy instead of a Ford. Mario Andretti will be at Darlington to see this vehicle up close. So that'll be great to have one of the greatest drivers ever lived of all time go and be at Darlington Raceway for that vehicle to race. Let's move on to the GSP roundup here. A few things to go over. Supercross was at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and Chase Sexton dominated the main event to get another victory. Go through all of this. Let's go and get the official results. Chase Sexton, the winner, led all 15 laps. Didn't get the whole shot. Roxon got the whole shot, but he passed him and on that first lap and took the victory over Justin Barcia, Roxon, Cooper Webb, and Eli Tomac. Aaron Plessinger, Adam Cianciarulo, Dean Wilson, Colt Nichols, and Justin Hill rounded out the top 10. The point standings going into the next round, which I believe is it's this weekend at East Rutherford, no less. Wow. Okay. No, so they're racing at 7 p.m. on Saturday. I got to see if there might be tickets. It's interesting. There might be something to actually go to a Supercross race. I wonder if I could find anybody else to go with me on short notice. The championship standings, Eli Tomac leads by 6 over Cooper Webb, 17 on Chase Sexton. So that win was huge based on Webb 4th, Tomac 5th. So now he's back in the mix. Barcia and Roxon only separated by a point for 4th and 5th. Anderson and Plessinger separated by a point for 6th and 7th. Cianciarulo, Christian Craig, 5 points, 8th and 9th. And then Justin Hill rounds out the top 10. In the 250 East race, it was Hunter Lawrence, even though there were other people up there that had a chance and definitely looked good. Danger Boy Hayden Deegan led a couple of laps and battled with Hunter Lawrence, but in the end, he went out there and got yet another victory. Hunter Lawrence, Jordan Smith, Hayden Deegan, the podium finishers, Joe Shimoda, Max Anstey, Henry Miller, Chris Blose, Talon Hawkins, and Cullen Park. There's some interesting names with these white people. I would say that, I'd say that elsewhere, but man. Nate Thrasher wrecked and fell out of the race. He was running up front early, and then Jeremy Martin as well, another one. The point standings sees Hunter Lawrence, who's won 6 races, 6 of the 7 races, I believe. Yeah, 6 of the 7 races so far in the East series. He leads by 45 points on Hayden Deegan. Max Anstey's 10 points behind Deegan. Thrasher 12. Jordan Smith 17. And then 21 to Jeremy Martin, who's in 6th. So that's something to look at as they race at in MetLife Stadium this coming weekend. For the last, I think, or next to last East race of the regular season, there will be one more West race at Denver at Mile High Stadium and Power Field or whatever prior to the championship finale, an East-West showdown. So 2 more, or actually this weekend's race at MetLife is going to be an East-West showdown as well. So that's interesting. That's going to make it a little spicier. So the Lawrence brothers will be racing each other, battling for a victory. Of course, they'll get points for their own specific championships, but they'll also be racing for an overall, something to definitely look at here this coming weekend. And the weather, I'm not so sure about the weather at this point. Doesn't look great, so got to keep that in mind. IMSA at Long Beach saw the Porsche team Penske get their first victory. Nick Tandy and Matthew Jaminet get the victory by just under a second over Connor D. Filippi and Nick Yellowly on the BMW M hybrid V8, what do you call Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan team. And then the other Porsche, Matt Campbell, Felipe Nasr finishes third, 2.9 seconds behind. And then Philip Eng, Augusto Farfus finished fourth. Pippo Durrani, Alexander Sims had to pit, and then they lost a lot of time. Tom Blomqvist and Colin Braun ended up being a lap behind. They had issues during the day. But the big story was Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque. They were in a position to possibly try and win that race with fresher tires. And Ricky Taylor tried to shoot the moon, and it didn't work out. And he crashed in the turn 1 tires. So unfortunate result there. It's been missed opportunities. I mean, first at the 12 hours of Sebring, which was, that was also done by Penske Porsches, and then now at Long Beach. In the GTD Pro category, the Vassar Sullivan Lexus of Jack Hawksworth and Ben Barnicoat were the winners over Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor in the Corvette. Klaus Bachler and Patrick Pilet in the FAF Porsche was third. In GTD, the Paul Miller Racing BMW of Brian Sellers and Madison Snow were the victors. And then Roman DeAngelis, Marco Sorensen for Harder Racing, their teammate, the Pro category Harder Racing car finished behind them. And then third place was Frankie Montecalvo and Aaron Telitz in the other Vassar Sullivan Lexus. So good job by that team this past weekend. Their result, Sebastian Bourdais and Renger van der Zanden basically didn't even have a race because Bourdais locked his rear wheels on the start, or basically going into turn 1, and crashed. And that eliminated him. That was a brutal deal for him. There was also a couple of cars, Ashton Harrison, Philip Hyatt, and they both crashed in qualifying, and that was a bad situation. Both those cars were damaged enough to where they couldn't race. So that was unfortunate for those drivers and those teams. We'll get into the points since I think their next race in the schedule. I'm trying to see. I don't know why I'm doing that. It doesn't work. That's not what I'm trying to do. The point standings going into the next round. Pippo Durrani and Alexander Sims are tied, and Jack Aitken, who runs, I don't know how they're tied. That makes no sense because Jack Aitken, they haven't put the points up for Long Beach on the IMSA website. Good job, guys. The 31 team was up by 10 on the Wayne Taylor Racing Andretti Autosport car. The 01 Cadillac was third. The BMW 24 car was fourth, and then the Porsche of Tandy and Jaminet was fifth, so they'll move up. The other Porsche was right behind them. And the Phil thing, Michael and Gusto Farfus there. So the points aren't updated, so I can't even give you a points update if I wanted to. The MotoGP and Moto2 race at Portimao, or not Portimao, COTA. Why am I thinking Portimao? Alex Rins gets the victory in the Americas Grand Prix, the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA on the LCR Honda, which is crazy to think, considering how much Honda has struggled in recent years. Rins coming off of the Suzuki factory ride and well known for having a lot of speed but crashing a lot, ended up pressing the defending world champion Pecco Bagnaia into a mistake early. Lots of crashing. They didn't even have 15 classified riders by the end of the race. There were so many wrecks in that deal. So Alex Rins gets the victory by 3.49 seconds over Luca Marini, and Fabio Quartararo was third. And then Maverick Vinales fourth, and Miguel Oliveira finishes fifth. So two Aprilias in the top five, four different manufacturers represented in the top four. Bezzecchi, coming off his first career victory, finished sixth. Zarco seventh. Franco Morbidelli eighth. Fabio Di Gianantonio ninth, and Augusto Fernandez in 10th. Michele Pirro filling in on the second Ducati, finished 11th. Jonas Folger, former Moto2 world champion, filling in for Pol Espargaro on the Gas Tech 3. KTM finished 12th, and then Brad Binder, who went off the track or fell in the late tight complex there before the the opposite version of the turn 8 at Turkey, finished last of the riders that were classified. Brattle filling in on the second Honda, or on the Honda for Mark Marquez, crashed out. Taka Nakagami on another. All the three Hondas are all there together. Joanne Mir, the former teammate of Alex Rins and a former world champion. Pecco Bagnaia, Raul Fernandez, Jack Miller. Those were all guys that were out. Alex Marquez, Alicia Spargaro, and Jorge Martin were involved in a first lap incident. Alex Marquez had the worst of it, and I think he had to be taken off on one of the boards or on a backboard. So not great in that sense for those guys. The point standings moving forward, Bezzecchi leads by 11 over Pecco Bagnaia. Alex Rins moves up to third, 17 points behind. Vinales is in fourth, and Zarco fifth. Marini, Quartararo, Alex Marquez, Binder, and Morbidelli rounding out the top 10. Yeah, I mean, even Raul Fernandez has actually scored points. Trying to go and see the seasons. Besekki, Paco Bagnaia, Rins. Oh, that's from this past week at the U.S. Grand Prix. I was trying to go and find some of the other information in terms of some of the other riders because I'm trying to find out some of the people that were called off weren't able to race. But I'll go and he's download. Excuse me. Pedro Acosta wins the Moto 2 race on Red Bull KTM over Tony Arbolino. Bo Bendisneier went through to finish third. So that was the race there, the top three. Jeremy Alcoba and his teammate Philippe Salic finished fourth and fifth. Teammates Fermin Aldeguer and Alonso Lopez were sixth and seventh. Aaron Canet, Celestino Vietti, and Manuel Gonzalez round out the top 10. Joe Roberts finished in 16th, just outside of the points. Sean Dillon Kelly, the other American, finished 18th. His teammate, Rory Skinner, finished behind him. So a pretty poor performance for American connected or just American riders in the Moto 2 race, unfortunately, in their home race itself. So the standings in Moto 2, that's not, there you go. In Moto 2, Arbolino leads by 7 over Acosta. Canet is 20 points back, so I would say that basically it's a battle between Arbolino and Acosta in the Moto 2 championship. I'm trying to look through. Roberts has 4 points this year. SDK is one of a few riders that hasn't scored points so far in the season. The next race is WEC at Portimao, which, per usual, Toyota gets the victory. And, no surprise there, but you go and look at how, some of the other cars that finished around them, the Ferrari and Porsche end up on the podium. So credit to those teams for their performance in the GTP category at Algarve. I don't know where I don't know what classification. Yeah, there you go. So the Toyota won by a lap. The 8 of Buemi, Hartley, and Hirakawa by a lap over the 50 Ferrari of Fuco, Molina, and Nielsen. The 6 Porsche of Kevin Estra, Andre Lauderer, and Lawrence Vantor finished third. The Cadillac, Ganassi Cadillac, Bamber, Lynn, and Westbrook fourth. So 2 of the LMDH cars in the top 4 is promising, to say the least. Amongst all these factory cars, the Peugeots actually made it the entire race. Peugeots are 4th and 6th. The other Ferrari split them. The Glickenhaus car was 8th, and the second Toyota was 7 laps down in 9th place, tied with, finished at the same number of laps as the winner of the LMP2 category, United Autosport, number 23, with Josh Pearson, Guido Vandergarde, and Oliver Jarvis over their teammate Lou Ben, Phil Hansen, Ben Hanley. Team WRT rounds out the podium with Rui Andrade, Robert Kubica, and Louis Delatras. Dorian Pin, the lady driver, Bortolotti, and Danny Kvyat, who was recently signed to run for the Lamborghini team. Fourth for the Prema team, the Hertz Team Jota Sport Car, Antonio Felix da Casa, Yaya Fay, and David Beckman. 14th place, but fifth in class. The Corvette Racing number 33, Ben Keating, Verona, and Nicky Katzberg wins GT Am by just over 0.2 of a second over the Richard Mille AF Corsa Ferrari of Perez, Kopanek, Wadu, and Rivera. And then the Iron Dames get a podium, Bovey, Gadding, and Rahel Frey. So that's a good job by them to get a podium. 3 different manufacturers representing Chevy, Ferrari, and Porsche in the race there. Now, trying to look through the Japanese Aston Martin car, only made 42 laps. The Floyd Van Wall hypercar only ran 174 laps. Not shocking. The Porsche 9, the number 5 Porsche of Cameron, Christensen, and Makowicki had issues and was the last classified finisher in 35th. So you go and look through all of that, get into the points and their points going into the Spa 1,000 kilometers I don't even know what this layout is. It's such a bad layout. Yeah. So the WEC website, for all the money they have, is god awful. So they'll be racing there in 2 weeks' time, less than 2 weeks' time. They'll be racing at Spa for the 6 hours of Spa. So that'll be a great race there. Let's see and maybe hear some of that horsepower of those Cadillacs, which actually, just out of curiosity, just by looking at it, the other Cadillac Ganassi car with Sebastian Bourdais and Renger van der Zande are going to race in the Spa 6 hour. Interestingly, so that'll be a welcome addition to the hypercar category. I'm trying to go and see if there's any other people or cars or things are a little different. No, there's still an LMP2. Pietro Fittipaldi, David Heinmeier Hansen, and Oliver Rasmussen, and one of the Jota cars. Alpines, that's the other. Oh, they're actually, it says they're going to be in so the Hertz Team Jota Sport Porsche is going to debut at Spa, so that'll be great to see with Antonio Felix da Casa, Will Stevens, and Yaya Fay. So that'll be nice. Nice addition to the field. Another hypercar there. And go through the rest of these. The 2 Peugeots, 708 and a 777. So we'll get into that in a few weeks' time. Record 13 extra Cadillac. So great to see that. Anthony Davidson, 2014 WEC World Champion. Yeah. Now he's actually working with Peugeot. Didn't know that till just now. And then I went over those other 2 classes and I'm getting into points. I think it's more important when we get to Le Mans with the way the points are. NHRA, as I mentioned earlier, 4 Wide Nationals. Let's go and get into those. One that, of course, matters most to me is Tony Stewart ended up going out there and winning in Top Alcohol Dragster, which is pretty badass. In top alcohol funny car, Doug Gordon gets another victory. He's a defending world champion, so credit to him. Tony Stewart gets the victory by 3/10,000ths of a second over Todd Bruce, and then Chris Demke and Mike Coughlin rounded out your drivers in that final quad. In pro stock, Dallas Glenn continues to dominate and gets yet another victory over Troy Coughlin Jr., Christian Quadra, and Derek Kramer. In funny car, Matt Hagan gets another victory. He spoke of the pressure he felt after Tony told him that he had to win because he had already won. So Hagan in the Haas Automation Dodge wins over Tim Wilkerson, John Force, and Chad Green. In Top Fuel, Antron Brown gets the victory over Steve Torrance, his bosom buddy, Brittany Force, and Josh Hart. Standings, the next race will be the Charlotte 4-wide Nationals in a couple weeks' time. Standings going into that event. Torrance leads by 13 points over Justin Ashley. Brittany Force third. Antron Brown moves up to fourth. He's tied with Mike Salinas. Leah Pruitt, Austin Prock, Sean Langdon, Doug Coletta, and Josh Hart round out the top 10. 12 cars, I think, have run the majority of runs for their eligibility to make the playoff. Matt Hagan has a 105-point lead on defending world champion Ron Capps, 116 on DeJoria. Chad Green running a strong fourth, Robert Height fifth, and Bob Tasca sixth. Tim Wilkerson, John Force, Cruz Pendragon, Blake Alexander. And then once you get out of that, I think you have another four. So looks like a lot of people that have an opportunity to do something this year in the funny car category. J.R. Todd's outside the top 10, which is pretty shocking. Former world champion in the funny car class. So interesting. It's also great. It also proves once again why they have the countdown and they reset the point. Dallas Glenn leads by 51 over Troy Coughlin, 65 on Matt Hartford, 97 on Camry Caruso, and 129 points on Aaron Stanfield, running out the top 10 or top 5. Faulkner, Anderson, Christian Quadra, Kyle Koretsky, and Mason McGahey round out the top 10. Derek Kramer is 5 points out. 13 points out is defending world champion Erica Enders, Fernando Quadra Jr., Jerry Tucker, and Chris McGahey rounding out the top 15. In the NHRA Pro stock class, I talked about, I think the Charlotte 4-wide will see the Pro Stock motorcycles come back again. So that'll be nice to see. Get into Rally Croatia. It's really just get into the points. As of now, getting into WRC, I mean, the passing of Craig Breen last week was sad. He was doing a recce and on a stage, and then ended up getting killed in an accident. So our condolences to the family of Craig Breen, a younger guy, 33 years old. So unfortunate loss for not only his family, but for the world rally community. Going into this race, the Rally Croatia, Sebastian Ogier has run 2 out of 3 races is the leader with 2 wins. Thierry Neuville, who's finished on the podium of all 3 races, is in second. And Kalle Rovanperä, the defending world champions, in third, 1 point behind. Ott Tanak is fourth. He won Rally Sweden, but otherwise he has a fifth and a ninth. Alfred Evans is in fifth. So that's we'll see how it goes for. They only field 2 entries. So use at the asshole and architect in the Irish 15 crash pre-event test. James Fulton was unharmed, so we'll run for full-time drivers Thierry Neuville and Esapekka Lappi. So that's it's so interesting. They're paying tribute to Breen on the cars this week or this race, and Cyril Abiteboul is now the Hyundai team principal. So that's something. Amazing how they somehow or another stay around, even if they're mediocre. Oh, that's what it is. I can probably put that right there, and then go and put that down to this. So there you go, and put that to there. Just yeah. Formula E, Berlin E Prix is next. Try to run through this. Been kind of lollygagging on this, unfortunately. I need to probably adjust the way I do the roundup. Might help. Verline has led the points for most of the year, still the case. 24 points on Jake Dennis, 25 points on Nick Cassidy in third. 3 different manufacturers represented in the top 3. 4 if you get to Jean-Eric Verne in fourth. So it's a very tightly bunched deal there between Dennis, Cassidy, Verne, and Antonio Felix da Costa, the teammate of Pascal Verline. So that's what we'll look at. They have 2 races this coming weekend at the Berlin E-Prix. They'll run back-to-back rounds, and then they'll run in a couple of weeks' time at Monaco for around 9, and then they'll take a month off before they go to Jakarta in Indonesia for the first time. They'll be running in Portland at the end of June, so that'll be interesting and cool. That'll be to lead up to a doubleheader in Rome, and then the final doubleheader to finish the season in London. World Superbikes in Assen, one of the great racetracks in the world, especially for motorcycles. Alvaro Bautista is current points leader, defending world champion. Won race 1 and race 2 at Indonesia, the last race they ran in March. So early days, only 2 rounds so far in the season. He's won 5 of the 6 races so far. Toprak Raskat Lioku in second, Locatelli, his teammate, fourth or third, Axel Bassani, Michael Ruben Rinaldi, fourth and fifth. Johnny Ray is in sixth. So interesting to see how he responds here this coming weekend. Garrett Gerloff, the American on the BMW, is with all of his BMW teammates, all kind of in the back, in 16th in points. So see if BMW has responded and has some better things to bring to the table. Go and get into Talladega, Josh. Time for the algorithm. Got to get it out of hibernation. Time to see what we think is going to happen or can happen at Talladega. It's usually a carnage-filled race, so the notion that we're talking about it now and trying to make choices, it's very hard to make choices when you have people who basically treated as a wild card. But we have to give it credence. It is a race. 500 miler, unfortunately. They ought to run 400 miles for this race or something to make it better.
I think it should be 600 miles.
Yeah, and then why? So we can see people jump over the fence. Because I think that would be that would be more entertaining. That would fit Tony's deal when he had his rant a few years ago. You could have some of them inbred hillbillies jump over the fence and they can go and play Frogger with stock cars. That would be pretty good.
I saw a picture recently of, I guess, an old Talladega race where there's fans on the backstretch sitting like on the catch fence or like the fence behind the catch fence, so they're about as close as what you could get.
Yeah, well, that was like, was it the 80s probably? Maybe the 90s, probably the 90s.
I think it was the
Something.
80s, whatever.
Yeah, and that was during the time when they were going over 200 miles an hour too. So, and
Yeah.
those things took off. So that was probably intelligent. But then it's Alabama. Uh, Ag Pro 300 on Saturday. They'll qualify on Friday, weather permitting, of course. Don't know if there's going to be weather or not. I'm just assuming, because it's NASCAR, there'll be weather. Uh, what is it? You have 42 cars for 38 spots. No driver listed for the 74. Trying to go through some of these other people here. Perkins again in the 02. Jade Buford in the Big Machine number 5. David Starr driving for SS Greenlight. Uh, Kraus back in the 10. Jason White in the 13. Truex, Ryan Truex again in the 19. Parker Chase 24. Number 24 car. Jesse Awuji. Why? And how the hell did he convince Todd Parrott to be his crew chief? Christ almighty. Joey Gase and CJ. Joey Gase will be running one for himself, but instead of Patrick Emmerling, they hired CJ McLaughlin to wreck the race car. So credit to them on that. Joe Graff Jr. will be in the 38 this week. Caesar Baccarella trying to make a start in the 45. Dexter Sacy in the 66. And Josh Balicki in the 91. That's it. Josh, let you go first on this for the Xfinity series. Who are you looking at as a winner and wild card? I think the vast majority of the field is a winner or wild card candidate, to be honest.
I mean, it's really I mean, it's really not hard to figure out who's you know, somebody that can win, and usually we've been saying it's either one of the junior cars or one of the college cars. Um, it could also be one of the Toyotas too. They were up there. John Hunter was up there at the end of the race too. So, gonna go with, you know, for this one, uh, I'm gonna go with Brandon Jones. I think he's due for a win. Hasn't won yet this year. Hasn't won yet with Junior Motorsports. I think the junior cars. Dale Jr. gets the crew together and tells them to figure out how to win. You guys messed up at Daytona with how they executed the end of that race. With all four cars kind of racing for themselves instead of racing for each other. So yeah, I'm going to go with Brandon Jones winning this one.
And who are you picking as a wild card?
Uh, I'll pick as a wild card. Go with Jeffrey Earnhardt. He's got that Earnhardt feeling at this track. He been on the pole here before and ran pretty well. So I'll pick Jeffrey Earnhardt as a wild card.
And I'll let you. I'll give you time to get the algorithm going.
Yeah.
So I'll go and make my picks. My winning pick is Austin Hill. He's basically made, ever since he's came to the Xfinity series and jumping in that 21 car for RCR, he's made super speedway type racing tracks his playground, and I doubt that changes at Talladega. Uh, in terms of a wild card selection, if I picked CJ McLaughlin or Joe Graff or Jesse Iwuji, that would be a wild card. And it would also probably mean that I need to get evaluated for mental deficiency. My wild card selection for this weekend at Talladega for the Xfinity series will be. Yeah, that was a good one actually with Jeffrey Earnhardt. Dang it! Now I have to go back to the points. I have to go back to the point standings and see where people are at. You got all these drivers over here, 22 drivers, 23, 24, 25 that have ran every race. And right now, of those guys, 24th is Jeffrey Earnhardt. So it's definitely wild. For my pick, wild card, man, this is brutal. You know what? 25, so you can go after 13. I think the top 13. So anybody outside of that. I will say I'm just gonna bail out. I'm gonna go with Jeremy Clements. He won at
As a winner?
Daytona. No, I said as a wild card.
Okay.
I picked Austin Hill as the winner.
No, yeah, okay. I got you.
So Jeffrey, or what do you call him? Jeremy Clements, who won at Daytona last year, I believe, or recently, last couple of years, and has been able to put himself in positions to run well at super speedways. Never know if they yard sale half the field and you're still there. Entirely possible. Lock yourself in the playoffs with a victory. Stranger things have happened. Of course, 3 cars, what is it? I don't know, like 30 cars got wrecked early in the race at Talladega one year, and Tim Fedewa burned his heels because he was going to start and park, but then his car was one of the only ones running. The qualifying will be for the Geico 500 on Saturday morning at 10:30. The race will be on Sunday
I've got the
afternoon.
algorithm for the Xfinity, by the way.
All right.
Yeah.
So let us know, what has the Tate Fogelman algorithm said about this race?
For Xfinity, it says that Parker Retzlaff is gonna win.
Okay, so Parker Retzlaff, Paperboy. We talked about him last week at Martinsville. I picked him as my wild card. Qualified well, finished just outside the top 10 to win. So we'll see if the Jordan Anderson team can finally come through. They've been close at Daytona with Jordan Anderson behind the wheel and Myatt Snyder. So it's entirely possible. 38 cars, so there is no people that are failing to qualify, so everybody will make the show. So that's actually a good thing. Rick Ware is actually running a third car, a non-chartered, Rick Ware is running JJ Ailey in that 51 car. I was confused for a little while, and then I realized that's Cody Ware, what used to be Cody Ware's car. So J.J. Elliott will drive in that car. Austin Hill will be running for the 62, the Beard Motorsports team with Realtree sponsorship. B.J. McLeod back in his 78. Going through some of these other people. Suarez will have Tootsies on his car again. Different sponsor, Haley. Richard, coming off his Daytona 500 win, will have Cheez-Its on the car. Moneyline will be on Tyler Reddick's car. Wendy's Beef is in the Bag will be on Gagson's 42. Eric Jones will be running the U.S. Air Force colors for the first time this year. Ryan Preece with Hunt Brothers Pizza. Zane Smith will be in the 38 with WellCare sponsorship. Todd Gilliland will have Generator Skills on the 36, which is the third car they're able to run because of the sponsorship, so you'd be able to run all the races. Michael McDowell, regular, same as Haley. Liberty University for Byron. Columbia Sportswear for Bubba Wallace. Shell Pennzoil and Auto Trader for Joey Logano. Motorcraft Quick Lane back for Harrison Burton. Ream for Christopher Bell. Buster with Fastenal. AJ Adderall-Mendinger with Farm Smart. Riley Herbst is going to drive a Monster Energy Mechanics Wear number 15 for Rick Ware. Chase Briscoe, Mahindra Tractors YOG, whatever that means. Worth will be on the 12 for Ryan Blaney. FedEx Freight Direct for Denny Hamlin. It's weird that he's actually running a FedEx car. Hasn't happened much this year, seemingly. McLaren Custom Grills will be on the 8 for Kyle Busch. Celsius for Corey LaJoy. Castrol Edge for Brad Keselowski. Mobile One back for Kevin Harvick. Cindric will be running the Menards Duracell sponsorship. And then the Moose Fraternity will be on Ross Chastain, the defending race winner of the Geico 500. I'll go first here. I picked Blaney in February. That didn't work out very well. I mean, picking super speedway winners when you consider how these races have been in recent years is more of a lottery. Bubba Wallace, of course, has been great at this type of racing. Blaney, of course, but you also consider Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski. Those are guys that have been up there over the years. Cindric won the Daytona 500 last year. Said Chastain won this race last year. Dillon seems to always find himself in that spot. Kyle Busch was in a position to win the Daytona 500 earlier this year. Clyde has won at Talladega. So has Hamlin. Almirola won a playoff race at Talladega a few years ago in the 10 with Klossmeyer as his crew chief, no less. I don't remember if Allmendinger won a plate race in the Xfinity series because Colleague was always up there, but may have not been him. Martin Truex has never won a plate race, points race, I don't think. So that's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, that's true. I was gonna say in
Yeah.
Xfinity he did
Yeah,
as far
definitely
as
in Xfinity.
Chance
Yeah.
2, but no, not in Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something. I mean, he lost the Daytona 500 to Hamlin by a nose
Yeah,
there
Hamlin by a
back
nose.
in 16. Some of these other drivers here. Trying to look at, of course, Haley's one Cup win was at Daytona. McDowell, his only Cup win was the 500, which is nauseating. Eric Jones has won at Daytona. His first career win, I believe, was a summer race at Daytona with 2 wins at Darlington. Reddick has won in Xfinity at Daytona back a few years ago. Well, Richard is pretty darn all of his wins have been on super speedways in the Cup Series. Man, stalled long enough trying to. I really don't have a clue on who to pick for this. This is nonsensical, really. I'm gonna do this out of restrictor plate races. Yeah. Um, my pick for the race on Sunday. Um, I mean, I picked Blaney thinking he had a shot. I mean, he probably should have, but it went away from him at Daytona. He gets redemption. He finally gets off the Schneid on the Cup Series side with a win. At one of the tracks that he has won at uh, multiple times before. Uh, so I'll say YRB to win. Then my wild card choice. Got some options actually. I do have some options based on average finish and stuff like that. Byron is god awful at restrictor plate racing. These other guys aren't much better, to be fair, including Chase Briscoe. Hmm. My wild card pick's going to be Eric Jones. They've been steaming hot garbage all year, and who knows why don't you roll a dice? He was in the position to win this race last year late. They need something to turn it around. So run the Air Force car, get the good vibes, go out there and get a victory at Talladega and turn your season around. I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility. So that's who I'm going to go with. YRB to win. That Jones boy is wild card. So how about you, Josh? Out of curiosity, is the algorithm ready for Cup, or do you
Yeah,
need a
it's ready
minute?
for Cup.
All
I
right, so I'll let you go for both then.
Yeah, I'll give my pick first, and then we'll get into algorithm there. So, um, I mean, it's can go any way here, but I mean, Daytona 500 was one. I mean, what, I'm gonna go Kyle Busch winning at Talladega. That's what I'm gonna go. They should have won the Daytona 500. I was thinking Ricky Stenhouse winning the Daytona 500, right? Yes, that's what happened there. And Kyle Busch should have won that one. So he kind of been a little cool recently, but him and Austin Dillon seem to pair well on the restrictor plate or super speedways. So I'm gonna go with KB number 8 winning. My wild card in this event. I'm gonna go with Justin Haley. He's been really good in the Xfinity series at this track, and he's been really good overall super speedway racing, in his career. So I'll go with him as my wild card, and then that brings us to our algorithm pick. Phil, you're gonna like this because it selects Chase Briscoe to be the guy winning. Yes, winning at Talladega this weekend. So, good picks by the algorithm. Pick Parker Retzlaff has been running well. We picked him a couple times as a wild card, and now it picks it to win. And now picks Chase Briscoe to win, and maybe it'll actually be right. Talladega, not the first time that's happened. Of course, our namesake for this, Tate Fogelman, somehow won in the Truck Series the first time ever that we did this back in 2021. So maybe it strikes once again this weekend here. Chase Briscoe potentially winning. Maybe I'll throw on a bet with the algorithm pick this weekend, and we'll see if it happens.
I might have to now as well. There's absolutely nothing through his entire Cup Series career, really, uh, outside of what Daytona last year, where he got a top five finish out of it. Um, not, I don't really, I can't really think of any other super speedway result of any significance. He's been up front at times and gotten wrecked. He's been in the back and got wrecked. So, two consecutive top five finishes for Briscoe, gotten himself back into playoff contention after what was a nightmarish start to the year. Got destroyed early in the 500. I'm just going through here. Briscoe, yeah, he was running up front and got wrecked 20, whatever, what worked out to be 30 laps from the end, from 92 to 12, yeah. 30 laps from the end because they ran 12 extra laps because of those stupid freaking green white checkers. The the spin by Suarez should have ended the damn thing. 52 lead changes amongst 21 drivers. So that means if the racing is somewhat similar to what they had at Daytona, it could end up being a pretty decent race, but uh, we also have to take into account that there's 9, 10, 11, 11, 12, 14, 15, 17 cars or 16 cars were eliminated out of the 500 due to due to accidents. Ty Dillon blew up 26 laps into the race. So just going back to that top 10, I mean, Stenhouse, Logano, Bell, Busher, uh, Bowman, who started on pole, of course, uh, AJ Allmendinger from 29th, Suarez from 24th, 6th and 7th, respectively, Ryan Blaney, 8th, Ross Chastain, 9th, and won a stage. Brad Keselowski won the first stage. And then Riley Herbst actually finished 10th in his first Cup start, just ahead of Travis Pastrana, who started tailback, and Zane Smith finished 13th. The Rick Ware cars actually finished 10th and 14th in that race. So shows what happens when you're able to just outlast everybody. So we will see. Hopefully that does come true. Of course, Briscoe hasn't won in a while, so it'd be great. Got his his finger fixed, so hopefully means he'll have a little more maneuverability with his car as Mahindra Tractor's Mustang. So Josh finished with his picks in the algorithm. It's now time for the sim segment. So what's going on in the world of iRacing and gaming?
Yeah, of course. I mean, talk about that. First, I want to lead up in the because we talked about go karting, over the weekend. Of course, I mean, I'm gonna connect it to sim racing here in a second because kind of felt that uh, connection between real life and the sim, and I'll explain that in a minute. But this weekend went to Bushnell Motorsports Park in Florida. It's about 2.5 hours away from where I live, and went out there. It's basically out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere in Florida. In between like Ocala and Tampa, basically. But went out there and ran ran 5 races for about $100. So uh, they had a pretty good deal there for the amount of time you get on track versus the price, and each lap is about 70 to 73 seconds depending on how quick you are. So you get about maybe 7 to 8 laps in a session. But I mean, it was pretty good. I watched a couple of videos online trying to figure out the right places where to brake, where to you know drive through the corners, where to take the curbs, and when not to in the corners. So try to really try hard to apply that. I knew people who were faster than me. My friend was a little bit faster than me, so I let him go. I didn't really challenge that much the first couple of races, just trying to learn the track. Last time that I went go-karting in Orlando back in January, it spun out a bunch, just going in too hot, locking up the brakes on corner entry. And this didn't really happen this time. One of my third race, I did spin out a little bit, just overshot the corner once on accident, but nothing really too much other than that. What made this track different is that there's a bridge. Phil, if you saw the picture that I sent, there is a bridge on part of the track. So you go uphill and then downhill, and then you go right into a 180 on a downhill section. So got to be real careful. You carry as much speed as you can going downhill, and then brake. If you brake late, there's a chance you're going to overrun the corner or spin out, which did happen once for me, but that was it. So, it was just a challenge figuring out where to brake in that section, and there was a couple of other hairpins, about one right-hander followed by a left-hander hairpin, and then the rest of it, is pretty straightforward. Kind of had that Road America flow to it, I guess. Especially with that downhill section, like in Road America, going into the 90 degree left-hander in turn 5 at Road America. So kind of felt like that a little bit, but there. Other than that, really fast, probably going about 40-45 miles an hour in a gas go-karts. So uh, it was pretty fun. Improved my lap times in every race that I ran, for the most part, and was able to remain fairly competitive. First 3 races was just trying to learn everything, and was putting up decent lap times for first time out there and everything. But then fourth race, my friend kind of he was starting. I think he started in front of me, but he passed by me away, and I wasn't able to keep up with him that much. But there was this other guy that I let go, but then he ran into traffic, and then I was able to catch back up to him and got within maybe a cart length, I guess you want to call it, of him, and was able to really try to pressure the guy into making a mistake, but didn't pass him, but was able to keep up with this guy. And the reason why I say earlier about the connection between sim and, I guess, real life racing, well, a lot of times in sim racing, especially on the road courses, I've really, like, especially when I felt like I've put together a good set of corners, and then that leads to a good set of laps, and you're really in that state where everything's making sense, and you're making good time, good corner entries and exits, and you're braking, and driving pretty aggressively. Uh, and I felt that a lot of times, especially when I was battling a guy trying to make a pass, and could feel the pass, like it's coming. This is going to happen here in the next couple of laps, and I felt that trying to get around this guy. I didn't get around him. I felt that feeling where I was right there, right behind him. It's going to happen here. The move is going to happen here in the next couple lap or two. So, I felt that feeling where you're just like, you're focused, you're in the zone, driving. Um, felt that in real life. So it's a good feeling to have, especially when you're trying to pass a guy. I mean, it's not for, I mean, we're going for lap time, but, I want to be able to make that pass on track for the track position, and try to execute a little bit of racecraft and you know, get that in me, and everything. So didn't make the pass, but was right there. Made a mistake in the right hander of the pair of paper clip corners, or 180 corners that they had at that track. Kind of struggled in the right hand portion, but then it flows into a left hander, which that's pretty easy. It's kind of brake like you're at Martinsville or Sonoma or something like that. But the other one, the right hander, had a little bit of struggle on that one. So on corner entry, trying to get a good entry there, and that really affected my lap. That was okay. And then other parts, pretty much straightforward. You're flat out for the most part. And then at the end, there's a hairpin before the start finish line. But you just have to kind of enter kind of high and then brake and then get back on the gas for a corner exit, and then that takes you up into the bridge section there. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty fun and everything. Then the last one started up front, and I was able to keep my friend, even though he had a faster lap time in front of me, or behind me. I was able to keep him from passing me. He never really got close to me, and things were pretty stabilized. So definitely felt like I improved throughout the time I was there and everything. So, glad I was able to go and hopefully be able to come back. And actually, I will have to come back because they had an iRacing simulator there. They had a good steering wheel setup, the seat and everything, cockpit, triple TV monitors, not computer monitors, but actual TVs they were using for the screens for the cockpit. But I guess the person there at the register couldn't. He couldn't figure, or she couldn't figure out how to load the sim, I guess, for um for the session, which is okay. So I'll just come back later and try it out, and then probably buy some more races. So yeah, good racing and everything. And actually, my buddy, my friend, got approached by a couple of old guys. They're like 60s or whatever. They're just there to they're retired, and they just come out there for fun to race and everything. And they asked him, he's like, well, we might have a spot available in an endurance 4-hour endurance race coming up, and they liked his lap time, so they asked him, is like, hey, give us your info and we'll let you know if we have a spot available for their endurance race coming up in May. So that was good stuff there. So definitely glad I was able to do that. And glad to be able to have other people that you can go race against, and be able to talk about your approach to driving and all that sort of stuff, and get into the real technical aspect, and just talk about racing in general and all that stuff. But um the actual iRacing stuff, I did a little bit of Martinsville this weekend in the Cup Series, which that was pretty interesting, with especially with the racing this weekend, iRacing. I don't know if they have the package updated for Cup, with low down first and everything, but just think ran back half of the top 10 until the very end, curb hopped and spun on, with about 2 laps to go off of a restart. So, well, they didn't really spin out, but I just like hit the curb and then kind of spun left into the inside wall, but it kind of kept it straight, but I lost all my track position. So ended up finishing like 14th out of like, I think like 16 or 17 cars that were running or had entered. So that's okay. But, um, always fun to do Martinsville as well. And it's actually the first track that I was really good on in sim racing when I started sim racing all the way back when I was a kid. So it's always one of my favorite tracks to run. And then ran Daytona in the Gen 4 Cup car, which was pretty fun. We had a lot of wrecks and stuff, and ended up taking out most of the guys, and so you're running with about maybe 5 or 6 guys that were left unscathed, including myself, and then everybody else is a lap down, and then it gets down to 5 laps to go, and half the front pack is lap cars, and that got really annoying because the lap cars are racing against the leaders, and racing for I guess for lap position, or just trying to take whatever runs that they can get. And that got really annoying because we're trying to go for a lead, and then lap guy takes his run and you know drafts on by you, and messes up your strategy, um and everything. So, or like they would pass you even though you're trying to lead the race and get their lap back, and it's 2 laps to go. Come on, just respect the leaders and everything. So that was really annoying, and then it affected the finish because the lap guys just never got out of the way, and the lap car in front of us stayed. I mean, he stayed in his line, he held his line and everything, which is fine, but you just pull over and let the leaders go in the last lap. You don't force the leaders to have to go around you and then make decisions and then end up taking each other out. And that's kind of what happened there. So they leaders touched in turn 3, and with the leaders, two of them on the outside, and then the lap car on the inside, and then somebody else like got a run and then tapped the guy in the middle, and then he took out the guy on the outside who was in second at the time. So lap car went on by, and then everybody was arguing afterwards, saying that the lap cars need to give respect to the leaders, and the lap guys were saying, well, no, you guys need to, it's your responsibility to get around us and everything. And well, yeah, that's also true. At the same time, it's the last lap of the race and you have nothing to gain from it. So just, let the leaders decide it for themselves and everything, instead of, potentially being in the way or affecting the race. So that was one thing there. And then did 87s at Daytona and everything, and probably should have ran better, but I made a mistake and got into the wall, and actually had a I got into the wall off of the tri-oval and then spun out and then got hit on the inside, the driver's side door, and then flew up into the air and had, probably should have recorded this, but I had a pretty epic barrel roll going into turn one and flying over and end over end stuff. So uh, yeah, that hap- that happened and it was disappointing, but sometimes that happens, I guess, in iRacing. So I have to take it for what it is and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it for iRacing. A little bit I did hear in the news, NASCAR may be reviewing who their, I guess, supplier will be, or distributor or publisher will be for the console games. Obviously, the controversy with motorsport games and their ability to produce a functional video game on the console side. Um, I guess people were talking, obviously about that for a while, and we know the issues with motorsport games, IndyCar, NASCAR, and all that stuff, and their ability to make a game in which they can't. And I guess NASCAR may be potentially reviewing the publisher, and maybe they'll change publishers for next year or this year or later on. So hopefully they make a decision soon, and they're able to do that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's it this week for racing, for the sim racing segment. So we'll probably try to have something on later on this week, and everything. Will uh, maybe do some Talladega, which I think Cup is at Talladega, Xfinity is at Talladega, and I think even Truck is at Talladega. So there'll be plenty of opportunity for Talladega racing on iRacing and all the other stuff. So we'll get into it later on this week and hopefully entertain some people. But yeah, that's all for me. Of course, you can follow the Sim Racing streams at Twitch TV/ usailor2, and go on there and watch all my streams and see everything that I have to present, and stream as a sim racer, and go on there and see all my stuff, and see if you like my approach to racing in general. So go on there and watch all my stuff there. Of course, Twitter, JP Huffine. See all my takes on this, and any other topics of interest of mine, including football, which is coming up for the draft. So we'll get into that later this month, and talk about that. Which actually that's next week. So the draft is actually a week away, which I totally forgot about until just now.
Yeah, it is a week away. Yeah, the first round will be on the 27th, so we'll probably give our thoughts on the draft next week.
Yeah. So yeah, follow at JP Huffine for all the interesting things I might have to say about that in the coming week. And then of course our YouTube channel, YouTube/Group Share Podcast. Go on there and like our page, subscribe, like our video, comment, whatever, listen to it, watch it, do whatever you want. Uh, Give us thumbs up and everything, and we'll support the channel on there and be able to continue to grow the content, and continue to produce content in there. So continue to follow us and support us in there as well. So yeah, of course, as always, thanks for being able to host as always this week, and continue to do this with you. And so glad to always be able to do it with you as always and everything. And also hopefully everybody out there did their taxes. Of course, one more day for taxes and all that stuff, so important thing to do. So make sure you do that if you haven't already.
Yeah, for the people that actually follow rules, yeah, taxes are due tomorrow. for a lot of people that, are pond scum, they don't think that they have to. So if you're actually a good person, you probably file your taxes. For me, I'm at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. We're at Gripstrip Pod on Twitter. You can find us anywhere. You can hear podcasts for the Gripstrip Podcast. Before I go, of course, thanks Josh as always, being my right hand man, my sidekick, and the what do you call the tech guy in a sense in terms of the show at least on live, and then also when you post a video on our YouTube page, you can find our show on podbean.com. That's our host server, and also philipgmatthew.com. We will be back for episode 166 of the Gripstrip Podcast next week, and we will be previewing the NFL draft as we just talked about. Also be talking about Formula One coming back after a 3-week hiatus. IndyCar at Barber, Talladega recap. They'll be racing at Dover next weekend. So plenty of racing coming up. We'll preview all that, getting some football talk, and anything else that comes up in the world of sports and motorsports here on the Gripstrip Podcast. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Take care, and take care of one another. Be nice to one another. The way things are going in this world, I don't know what's going to happen. So take care, God bless, and goodbye.